Gary's here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Full board and everything, we should take pictures. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion, have a second.
Second.
Second, Gary. Discussion? Comment? Okay, no public comment at this time. Consent items, we have a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
A motion,
And who is that?
Ron,
Second that.
second by Josh. Okay, discussion.
Yeah, I just had, was wondering, for the contracts we're offering, could you, how many applicants did we have for?
For the online social work position that Brooke Davis got, there were, 6 applicants for that one. For the Houston Elementary social worker position, there were 3 for that one. For the Dean of Students, oh, for gosh sakes, for the MNVA Dean of Students, there had to have been 25. I lost count after 20.
Okay.
And for the speech language pathologist, 1.
Okay. Technology integrations?
We had 4, only 3 were able to interview. And then the resignation.
Yeah. So because we're always often hearing that some of these positions are so hard to fill in rural places and we go to meetings, I was just curious what kind of a pool you're.
For special ed, we still have an opening for EBD on site. We have had 0 applicants. Special ed is still very hard to fill. It seems administrators are easier to fill. Caledonia, with Ben Barton's replacement, they had 20 applicants for the superintendent opening.
Wow.
Nobody want to leave Wisconsin.
There were a lot that and the one that came is leaving Wisconsin. They had several from out of state.
Will the new tiered teacher license system provide you any flexibility in some of these hard to fill positions or not necessarily?
It's going through rulemaking. Right now, the way it's being applied, it would not. In fact, it would make things worse.
Because it's taking hearings through the end, or like the 28th, and then it goes into effect like 2 days later. It's
right, but right now they're going very stridently, so no one gets a license that should not be given. And so, yeah, right now we would not be impacted. Mabel Canton would have a teacher that would no longer be able to teach at the high school.
That's too bad. Okay, thank you. I'm just kind of curious what the.
No, for the Dean of Students, I think everybody and their brother wanted to be the Dean of Students.
What are the criteria, or what were the requirements, licensing or otherwise?
Preference was given to people with principal's license and administrative, but Shelley Gates, who was hired, was filling in almost virtually the same capacity as far as the LEA rep on special education, IEP meetings, really looking at truancy, looking at the Office of Civil Rights discipline reports and making sure that things were equitable, looking at how staff was handling some of those discipline. That's exactly what she was doing in Rochester. But she lives in La Crescent and the commute just got to be too much. So that's why she left Rochester. So she said, this is absolutely the best of both worlds. She gets to do the job she loves and not have to be on the road 3 hours a day.
Okay. I'm glad you found some good
Mhm.
candidates.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
In terms of voting on those, we vote on those as a package, or,
Yeah, it's just a part of the consent items, so.
because one of those I work with, so I didn't know if I abstained then, or.
Oh,
I think not unless
Not
it's
unless
your
it's like
relative.
spouse.
Okay. Just-
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Discussion items? Why we play training video?
Yep, and it's a 10-minute video, so if everyone could turn and look at the screen, please.
Maybe
I think the culture of sport is
Here, do
broken.
you want me to?
Success is defined by winning, by having more points on the scoreboard at the end of the day than the other team. That's where the value lies. And whose name is in the paper the next day. And who had the most points, and who had the most rebounds, and who won the game. And who gets to the championship. It's the reason why we do it.
The Minnesota State High School League's Jody Redmond is passionate about developing the human potential of students. She's leading a national movement to reclaim the purpose of sports.
The pressure to win, and sometimes at all costs, is significant. Kids feel it. They feel it from their coaches, they feel it from their parents, they feel it from their friends. They feel the pressure to be able to win.
When we think of how our culture values high school sports today, certain words come to mind, and that of former coach and NFL star Joe Ehrmann.
Destructive,
Expectations,
regressive,
trophies,
Ooh.
win at all costs.
Lack of value,
Win at all
lack
costs.
of value, yes, yes. Missed opportunities,
Zero fun, sir.
zero fun, misguided,
Unfortunate.
unfortunate, sad.
When we look at education-based athletics and what a trophy means, I think it's about the experience. It's about what did we provide those students that was life-sustaining through trying to get the trophy.
Today's student athletes feel the pressure to compete at a high level, so they drop out of sports. 70% quit by the age of 13, and they miss out on a big educational benefit.
There's a University of Kansas study that draws a correlation between kids who participate and are involved in high school athletic and activity programs. Students that are involved in those activities do much better academically than students who are not. The research shows that the reason for that is school connectedness.
It's been amazing what we've learned.
5 years ago, Mounds View High School began to survey their students, asking what they really get from being involved in the school's athletic and activity programs.
I was shocked to find out that our coaches and advisors are equally as important in the lives of our students as our teachers. It was a game changer for us. Our whole district, where we're going and how we value activities, it's not after school. It's a part of the educational process. It is no longer an extra. We've defined that, and it's something that we value every bit as much as what they do during the school day.
The purpose of high school athletic programs is not to develop college or professional athletes. In fact, most students, 97%, will not play organized sports after they graduate. Instead, these powerful mentors we call coaches have 4 years to make a difference in kids' lives, to teach them life lessons that will help prepare them to be successful in life.
Well, I will be honest, our goal is to win. Our goal in many sports is to win a state championship.
Winning has a place, and there is value in learning how to win. However, that's not our purpose.
Our purpose is to enjoy that experience, enjoy their teammates, enjoy their coaches, and learn from whatever took place on the field or the court or on the ice on that given day.
Our purpose isn't the score at the end of the game. The purpose is the growth and development that comes through trying to achieve that win
3 objectives I have. I want them to be a better baseball player, a better teammate, and a better person at the end of the year.
We're working with coaches to develop their own purpose statement.
So why do I coach the way that I do? It comes because I had a couple coaches in my life that touched me and changed my life.
Joe Ehrmann has been called the most important coach in America and a leading voice for change in how we coach our kids in sports today.
Why do you coach? Is it about you or is it about your players?
A transactional coach is basically a coach that uses his platform and position for his own self-edification, for his own identity, his own empowerment at the expense of the development of their players. It's kind of, if you meet my needs, my demands as a transactional coach, then I'll give you playing time, I'll give you praise, some kind of plaudits, but it's basically using young people.
As a child growing up, I had a lot of transactional coaches when I was younger because I was a very talented kid. Once I got to high school, my head coach, I didn't have a dad, so my head coach was my dad. It's tough. And he showed me I'm more than just an athlete.
Transformational coaches basically understand the power, platform, position they have in the lives of young people, and they're going to use that to change the arc of every young person's life, to help them develop morally, ethically, socially, and emotionally. Transformational coaches mentor young people, and to mentor you have to build a relationship with people. Transactional coaches do nothing but monitor young people. They move them from drill to drill, season to season, no relationship, no contact.
When I first started coaching, I only had one goal, and that was to win at all costs. And I don't use that term lightly. I know how it sounds, and I'm not very happy with who I was as a coach then, now looking back.
To be a better coach, you gotta be a better you.
And now our focus is much more on what I'll call trying to build a team family within the chemistry of our individual teams that I coach, and trying to find ways for our athletes to grow as people. Get excited, can't wait, let's go.
Every day, Coach Troy Kors works hard to keep his purpose alive in everything he does, and he's helping his team student athletes to do the same.
Good. Nice. What 3 words would identify you as an athlete? This is completely you as an individual and what you want to get out of the sport.
Family.
Okay, how come?
Because you basically feel like a family. You can like go to them for anything. They'll help you with anything.
The word I chose was friendship. I like going to track practice, hang out with people I know, and just getting to know them. I chose responsibility because I feel like you have to be able to rely on others, and you have to be reliable yourself.
So I'm gonna take 5, you have 6, you have 7. I grabbed 3 words as well, and mine goes like this. I coach to create positive relationships with my athletes so they know I care about them, while striving to be an authentic leader who they can trust as we both work together to discover joy in our sport and through competition. That was a good time on 13.65. Nicely done, well done, well done.
I'm mostly in track just to have fun. Just because I'm not the best doesn't mean it's a problem.
The big group's kind of like family to me.
For me, it looks like we're enjoying ourselves more. The idea of sharing in something and enjoying each other's company and being a part of a sport we love to play. And for me, that's been the biggest change I see.
For a coach to withstand the pressure of the current win-at-all-cost sports culture and to truly be invested in transforming the lives of students, there must be support. Support from school leaders, parents, and the community. For this to happen, we must want more for our kids than just wins, losses, and a good performance.
We want to give them more. We want to give them a significant experience that's going to help them develop into people that are going to live in our community. We want to give them a way of being successful that will sustain them throughout their lifetime, not just until the season's over. So we have to align school communities around this idea that we are purpose-based, we're education-based.
I want school boards to reclaim sports in the name of education. I think school boards need to make sure that we move away from this win at all costs. We need to start building a system where coaches are held accountable for the transformative impact they have in the lives of their students.
It really boils down to, what do we want to give our children? Beyond the trophy, beyond just the win and the loss, beyond the trophy case.
Hopeful.
Filled with potential.
Men and women of great character.
Yeah. Confusion and mistake-making rocks.
And every child feels loved and belongs.
Connected.
Greater relational capacity.
Wow. You're rocking. What else you got in there?
Okay. Any questions on that? Now we can sign off that we've all watched it.
I had a quick question. Maybe I wasn't at the meeting last year, but there's a meeting at the beginning of the school year for parents of athletes.
Yep.
Have we thought of showing this video? Maybe we did last year. I don't know that I was at the meeting. If I was, I don't remember it. But it's one thing for us to watch it, but if we really believe in this, I think the parents need to see this too.
There's one online, I know, for the students. Chair Stillen, you could ask the AD what
she's right here.
Yep.
We could ask her. Have you?
We have in the past shown it, but because how many times have you seen it? It's good to see every year, but we have opted for what our personal needs are, so it's always an option. Right now we're really working hard at sportsmanship within our fans and parents, and so last year we brought in refs and talked to the parents about sportsmanship and all of that. Yes, this is an excellent video, and it has been shown in the past. It just wasn't last year.
I think it maybe every so many years we should show it. I think that we do better in certain sports than others, let's just put it that way. And I think some of the issue, I mean, the video talked about it, if the parents aren't involved, I mean, and if the parents don't feel this way, they can cause major headaches for coaches. And I mean, you see that in the news. Wasn't there something in Rochester recently?
Yes.
Something.
Yes.
I mean,
Rich
but
Decker resigned.
Some of the worst offenders I see are parents, and I think they need to be reminded this is a school.
Yeah.
And we're concerned about the educational aspect.
And not just the
win.
Win at all costs.
And also being polite to your fellow man.
Yeah, sportsmanship is important too.
Well,
but
you do see parents that get a little irate with coaches, and sometimes I think it's not needed.
There are some schools that are noted for the parents being very bad on getting at other people. I don't think we have that reputation, so.
I think we're better than most, but I always think we could improve. Yeah.
I have gotten emails from other schools on occasion, at which time I bring those emails to both the athletic director and to the principal.
I mean, if people tune out because they see it every year, maybe you could take the 7th graders or, you know, the entry year into sports programs, and it's your first year out for a sport, you guys get a 10-minute, you know, so they get it done.
Other coaches, they see this?
Yeah, the coaches have one that they have to go through. It's part of the yearly certification for coaches, that they have to go through several modules in order to be recertified as a varsity coach. For Minnesota State High School League, the varsity coaches have to do it, but we make all of our coaches go through the modules.
Any other questions? Varsity golf. Lisa.
Not sure if we still have the form from last week.
Yeah, the form from last week was the numbers. The one that she.
Yeah, and I didn't put that in the board.
Okay.
Okay, so 2 weeks ago when I showed you an update of all of our sports, and that was in there and what our coach to player ratio was, and then we had comparisons of what other districts were doing. And so we are paying 2 head coaches when other districts have 1 coach for both boys and girls program. That came up along with some other discussion. So more discussion on that. What are your views on that? If that's
Well, I know we've talked about it.
And the board, I had some board members ask me to put this back on as a discussion item, which is why this is back on, and you are, as AD.
I know we've talked about it in negotiations, and it has come up in discussion as far as, you know, what's the best. And I think that it, but to be honest, I don't think it's gone anywhere with it. You know, we've discussed because I think the way it's written, and I did ask for some clarity, I talked to Corinne, as far as, do we need 2 coaches for this sport? No, because the way I think it's written in the master agreement is numbers, and golf is considered 1 sport, whether it be 2.
Sports are not,
I mean, it's not
listed
it's
at
not
all.
like that. We could technically have 1 person do it. So it's, I don't know who would have to make that call to make the change. Shouldn't you? I mean, that's a board decision. I mean, I think if we follow the master agreement, that's what we should be following, correct? We should be following, if we have 50, according to my recollection, it's 15 people in a sport, and no matter what.
Or fielding
a team. We have 1 coach. If we have more than 15, it's up to the head coach to determine whether or not they need an assistant. That's my understanding.
Right.
So we could feasibly just have 1.
And just so you
For the
know,
number of
fielding a
kids.
team for boys golf, you need 5. For a team for girls golf, you need 5 to actually consider it a viable team. For dance, you also need to have
5.
5.
Right.
Adapted bowling does not have a number limit in order to be counted as a team.
So the way I would love to see it is, I mean, my kids are in golf. My daughter actually really, really likes golf. And I don't understand why more girls aren't going out for golf. Is there something that they're going out for? Is there some sort of, I mean, ideally, I would just like to see the team bigger. I think it's a great sport. They've got the team aspect, they've got the individual aspect. It gets them outside. It gets them in the fresh air. It's not something that you need to be super, you need to train for 7 years to do. It's not a contact sport. It's just a great lifelong sport. So I don't understand why more girls aren't going out for
The
it.
numbers are there. We've got 23 girls in softball.
Oh, softball, I guess.
And 19 girls in track.
If you look all the way across
Minutes.
from there.
But it's the ones that aren't doing track and softball aren't also doing golf. We thought we had enough girls for a golf team this year. And on the first day of practice, when the girls' golf coach went to ask the girls, which van or bus they were riding, and they then said, oh, we decided we weren't going out. And it's not that they wanted to do softball or wanted to do track, they just decided,
Snow.
But I think the majority of the girls that are in line with athletics, because we've had a strong softball program, go out for softball. That's probably why.
or track.
Yeah.
Our softball numbers have fluctuated a little bit lately, but it's building back up again now.
Right.
But no, I don't know why the other ones, I don't know why the girls who said they were gonna go out for golf, all of a sudden on the day the golf started, decided they weren't going to, which meant that the girls that were out could still compete as individuals and still get value from it. But we didn't have a team. So we didn't have a team. but we still had a coach that was getting paid for a full team.
And still had to do the work of the team.
But my understanding, they still could travel together, so they could still compete as individuals.
We have been
and
taking
doing,
two vans very often, so
Yeah.
that would be who would need a driver.
yeah.
And if we upped it, if there was 15 kids or 16 kids, then it would be a head and assistant coach.
It's up to, the way it's written in the master agreement, it's up to the head coach. You know, and, you know, when you're coaching golf, again, I don't coach golf, so I don't know how they operate. You know, it's a lot of practice on the driving range, and then you go out and play around and monitor the kids as they're playing, and, you know, give them pointers and help them improve their game. Yeah.
And so this is just because it was asked, it's discussion?
Just more discussion, just to
So-
bring it up on what people think. Obviously, it would have to be something, if we're gonna abide by the master agreement, we would have, in my mind, one coach.
And
the
the
way it
master
sits.
agreement, the way it's written on Appendix B, is basically moot to, it just says varsity coach, assistant, or JV, C team, assistant C team. It doesn't have any, it doesn't say any particular sport that was there. So if the board decides that golf is considered to be one sport with girls and boys under that one head coach, that would be a board decision.
Then we'd have to change the agreement, correct?
No,
Anyway,
the agreement is moot to what that is. So the board would define that for golf, varsity would be girls and boys together. But it's, right now, it's just discussion, and there's other things to look into with that as well. So it's, Lisa's here, in case you've got.
What are your thoughts, Lisa? I mean, do you feel, I mean, I know last meeting we had, you felt like we could probably get away with one coach with this amount of kids.
With this amount of kids, right,
correct.
you know, and looking over history, we've had 2 years now of not having a full girls pro team, which just is a fiscally concerning in my end. So.
And I don't know how we could get more girls involved.
Right.
Well,
Is there any more interest at the 7th grade level, or?
Well, I'll find out August 7th when we do the big sign up, you know, and maybe there'll be 15 that sign up, but history has shown that it's not usually that way.
Haven't we made a recent agreement to, since coaches are not under continuing contracts, that annually coaches who will be returning for sports that are identified are named early in the academic year. Right? So there would be an opportunity to hear how many students have expressed interest in each of the sports and what the recommendation of you, the principal, is for coaching those sports, right? Possible?
Yeah.
So it seems to me that that's a possible time to visit this. Instead of making a decision now, we don't know.
We're not making a
No, I
decision.
know.
But-
No,
I mean,
that's a good idea.
it's a discussion, but it's
Right.
like, it's gonna be a discussion and then it's gonna be, then what?
Yeah.
So I'm saying,
So add it to after registration then?
well, whenever, I mean, in the past, it's been under the hiring, the personnel, it comes in. We asked for knowing who the coaches are. Sometimes we're 2 weeks into the season when we approve, and we ask to have that done sooner if it's known. So I think that's.
So, question for you then, when I submit the coaches for the upcoming year, which you would like to approve usually as soon as possible, you know, you do it in the summer, how do you want me to proceed with the golf one?
Yeah, because you won't know until later.
Yeah.
Well, you're making a recommendation, it's our decision, but it's based on your administration's recommendation. So if you're recommending two, we might question it. If you're recommending one, we would likely approve it.
What is on the August 7th date? Is that a whole school meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And that's for anybody interested in any sport?
Yeah.
And yeah, like Michaeline said, it's pretty much your call on that. You know, if you say there's only 12 kids, boy and girls, you say one, that's your recommendation.
And if
And
the
make them up and
recommendation is
say-
2, we'll probably want a justification, because
Yeah.
we've been discussing this now. We
Yeah.
wanna know why, and what's the,
Well, we have golf, so it seems to me we need one coach for sure.
yeah.
Yes, oh yeah,
So,
definitely.
you hire one coach. That's what I think. And then if we have an overwhelming number of people that go out and we have 45 kids, then we can hire 2 more coaches.
And I know this is not really necessarily off track, but I feel like the video, if a parent that didn't have a kid in sports, I feel like some of the parents could push their kids a little more. There are some kids that maybe are at home playing video games and should be partaking in a sport. Really, I mean, they should be, because there's educational value to that. I mean, and I'm not just saying golf, I'm saying any of the sports, there's educational value. And I think the parents might not be aware of that, but I wonder on the 7th too, if maybe the different sports, can they give a little spiel?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, like golf, we really want you. You don't have to know anything about golf. We're gonna teach you, you know, I mean, because I think some kids, like robotics, do you know you don't have to work on the robot? We need people for marketing, you know, because I think sometimes the kids are intimidated. Like they might be a sophomore and think, oh, I needed to start as a freshman, now I can never do it and never think about it again. But, you know, golf, you take a senior, you take a 7th grader, you take whoever, and if they were the best golfer, they've never golfed before, they could still be a good part of the team. So I don't know if the kids and parents all know that, but
We had, last year, we had a game like introduction of each of our coaches that were in attendance, and then they each had a booth that they could all go and talk to afterwards, like it was a little job fair. And then some of the coaches decided to make it a little bit more competitive and had cookies or displays or whatever, so.
see, I obviously wasn't there.
So, they took it on quite seriously, so.
Okay.
Recruiting children.
And there's nothing wrong with cookies to recruit. So,
No, but I think it's a good idea. Maybe have them a little, you know, golf is one of those sports, I mean, like she said, you can take on any time. I mean, I know a lot of people didn't play golf till they were older.
Do they still have golf in Fayette?
I don't think they do they? I know
I
we
thought
used
they
to.
did because my kids said Runnigan had a whole bunch of extra clubs, but I don't know.
I don't know if,
Todd said yes.
okay.
Maybe that's something that should happen about first thing in the fall.
Well, 20
If you
kids
want
up
to
for
promote the golf, you know, and give everybody a taste of it in 7th grade right off the bat.
Right off the club.
By spring, they might want to go out and try.
The weather is nice still, right?
Yeah. Maybe rain,
But with for overall, I mean, you just bring us your recommendation. And like Ron said, according, you know, if you feel we hire one, and then if we get 15 or 16, that person just needs an assistant, we do that and go from there.
Okay.
That's what I would recommend.
Okay, but I didn't want her coming with that recommendation and having the conversation then, so now at least we've got the
Yeah, got the
conversation.
groundwork. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, Elisa.
Okay, LTFM 10-year plan.
We talked about the LTFM plan both at finance and at facilities. The plan, this is the expenditure, which is the main thing. This has for fiscal 19, okay. Okay, if we go back to there. For fiscal 19, that's really what we're looking at. We have to do the 10-year plan, and so we've extrapolated the costs out that we know we're going to have. But as far as projects, the last big project we have is asbestos removal here at the high school. And so if we take out the floors that have the 9-inch asbestos tiles and the countertops in the science rooms, because if we're going to have asbestos removed, if we do anything to those countertops, the people from IEA think that they most likely have asbestos. So when we're having the floor abated, we should just have them take the countertops at the same time. So we're going to have to be looking at some science rehab for next summer. But the 175 is for the removal and the encapsulation, which means to remove all the mastic off the floor, and also the design of the project. And then down below in line, it ends in a 9. It says interior surfaces, we have 100,000. That's for the what's underneath the tile is concrete. So if we actually polish the concrete and add a stain, we can add any kind of design in the stain that we want to. So we can look at designs in October that will be put in there the next summer. But that will be a floor that will be maintenance free, and we won't have to ever replace it because it's concrete and it can look nice. It won't be just like a concrete floor. There's a stain and a finish on it, but that's it really is a maintenance free, and that's what a lot of schools are going to now. So if you want, I've asked for pictures. So as I start getting the pictures in of what those concrete floors look like in other schools, I'll be sending that portfolio to all of you so you can see what that looks like. So that's in there. There's the cost in there. If you look down at the very bottom, as far as the price, that brings it up to 510. We've got carryover that we have not spent from the year before. The carryover is it's over 200,000, so that helps offset it so we don't have to do taxes. And I know, Mimi, you've said that if we take everything, if we can go to the revenue sheet, if you look at line 31, there, right there. So that's what we reduced it down. If we added that back in and took that full amount, that actually would have an impact on our taxes of 3%. And right now we're at 0.57. That would raise us up to it would raise us to 0.60. So it would have an impact on those taxes. So it does have a little more impact than what we think it does, but the first dollar amounts don't, but that adding that back in would have that impact.
But it's a lot. I mean, you're getting $510,000 worth of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, for very little in what?
But it is still a 3% tax increase.
Right, but we could adjust something else potentially as well to offset it. I mean, we have to look at that when we look at.
Right, but this you can only use to remodel what you have. It can't be used to build anything new.
Right, but if we wanted to spend that money, we could not spend as much in a different area in our budget to offset it as well.
But what I'm saying is we reduced by the 454, and we actually can do all the projects that we have listed. We can do the abatement. We've got some carryover that we haven't spent. So we can do all those projects without raising the taxes. And then we will be able to actually keep that same kind of ratcheted down amount for the next in our truth and taxation, because we've got the carryover.
Okay, so my understanding is whatever we put in here, it's kind of like with taxes, like we'll say levy to the max or whatever. So this is the maximum number of things that we can do. So we're not gonna lower this, right? We're gonna say this is $510,000 worth of stuff is what we'd like to do next year. And then later on, you're saying we could lower it to 454. Or are you saying what we submit right now is being lowered so that we don't raise taxes? I'm confused which number. Are we submitting our wish list, which is higher? Or are we lowering it?
This is not a wish list. This is what we're submitting to the MDE and saying this is what we're doing. What I'm saying is the reason that we can do the 510 is because we've got some carryover funds from previous years. So it's not like we're going to, at the Truth in Taxation, we will be reducing that the amount. This is just expenditure. This isn't, so.
I just want to make sure we're not limited. I think it's in our best because of the percentage that we get from the state is so high for long-term facility maintenance.
If you scroll all the way down
I
to the
hate
bottom.
to see us lower it at this point. I'd like to have the ability to
back up.
play with the numbers later when we're looking at taxes.
Yeah.
There.
We have time.
You get what I'm saying.
If you look at all revenue, reducing it by 454, we got 783. For fiscal 19, we haven't reduced it yet. It says it's going to generate 1.2 million. If you remember what we were spending that 500,000. So I'm saying that we can reduce, for Truth in Taxation, we can reduce it
and
still
still
do
manage
everything
what we
on our
want.
wish list, keep the taxes low, and there won't be an impact. There, does that, it was,
Yeah.
okay.
I just want to make sure we're not, I mean, it's so early in the year. I just want to make sure whatever we submit, we're not limiting it, that it's
No,
all
we're
the
not.
projects we'd like to do next year.
We're not limiting it yet.
We're not limited.
Yeah.
We're not limited at any time. At this time,
We
we're
won't
just
limit it
going
until
up.
we do the
Truth in Taxation.
And the number 153,000 for 2018, we did all those projects? Okay, so they're all done. I just wanted to check on that.
Okay, any
Anybody
questions?
have any questions on it? Okay, potential van purchase.
Okay, I was hoping that we could do this a different way, but, HVED was looking into buying a van to transport our kids, but they found out they could only, if they bought the van, they could only transport from their program to the community. They couldn't go to the resident. So that the first idea of having HVED buy a van and going around and picking up the kids in their resident district and bringing them to the Spectrum or WIN program is not an acceptable use of funds. But we could use some of the vans, we could code the van to our MA funds, which are already in our budget. Gwen's already basically done this, and then we can take that 20% depreciation and they give us that back each year. And so basically by the end of 5 years, we have gotten a refund back for this van. And so we have to pay for it, and that, but in 5 years we get the refund. So basically we got the van for free. You can use the van for 10 years, so then we'll have it for 5 more years after that, where it won't be regulated. Right now, for the first 5 years, we can use it as long as over half of the time that van is in use, it's used only for special ed transportation. That's one of the stipulations.
So we can use it pretty much for anything we want, as long as half of the time is used for that.
Over half of the time.
Now,
And with this, we're going to have to take, at the beginning of the year, I know we'll have 3 runs to Caledonia every day. There's no way that
I'm
we
sure
can
Randy
have
will
3
track
more
it. We're
runs
not gonna
somewhere. Yeah, Randy tracks all
What,
that.
no, so we have to purchase it outright at the front, or can this be something Gwen can go out and say, okay, we're gonna make payments on it over the next 5 years at whatever? Or is that something,
Our
Gwen,
auditor
what's the best?
hates it when we buy anything on installment, because we've got the money, and he said
Well, that was my
installment is
question.
always
I mean,
more money.
You know, if
And the money's in
What's
the
the best way to
budget,
do it?
the money's in the budget for buying the van.
Okay.
So, all it would need is board approval.
So then as we
to buy the
replace
van
the money back into the budget, we can allocate those dollars for other things.
within special ed,
Within special
absolutely,
ed.
absolutely.
And our MA funds, please.
Medical assistance, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I mean, that's how I understand it, but I
Yeah,
didn't know that
yeah.
it's.
Yep.
Public.
Is Randy gonna research the van like he would buses?
Absolutely.
And now I know.
Which is,
No.
Randy likes researching all of that.
Okay, I just didn't know what he was.
And he's good at that, he is good at what he does, and he, I think, kind of enjoys it.
So the van maybe on the next
The
meeting?
van will be, in 28 days, we have our next meeting.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on the van? Okay, staff development.
The staff development report is just something that, because our staff development goals are tied to the world's best workforce goals, and they're 5-year goals. The 5-year goals have not been, the end of the 5 years has not sunsetted, but I did update this to reflect the new way that we have. The staff development forms are all now part of the electronic form system, the dfssphere.com system. And so I updated the staff development plan to reflect the new way that teachers submit staff development forms and how their notification comes back. Their notification comes back right away, and then as they fill that out, it gets submitted back instantly. So some of the record keeping that we had originally put into this plan could be reduced because that electronic form system maintains it and can all go back to the site committees. So that's just reflected in here. Questions?
Now with those percentages in there, the 70, 10, and 10 is, what if like tuition, there's requests for 12% or something, how do we handle that?
The tuition, some of that comes from Title II dollars that are set aside, and with the way that K-12 has us doing the program budget, the 10% set aside is 10% of the 2% in the program budget, and that can just go to MNVA staff, full-time MNVA staff. So then the other 10% is from the numbers generated from our FTEs on site, and then that's augmented by the Title II set-aside dollars. So far, if any site goes over the tuition, that comes out of their general staff development, the 70%. Staff development has to pay for itself, yes.
Was this reviewed by the district advisory committee?
You're on the district advisory
No, I'm
committee,
not.
no.
No, I'm not anymore. It's Mimi and Jean.
No, this was not, we did not have a meeting.
Okay. I mean, I know I'm just, there aren't many changes, but we made significant changes to this plan several years ago.
Right.
And it's just nice, it was educational for me to be part of that, so I think it's good for the board to be aware of, because 2% for staff development, it's a lot of money. And
yeah.
The requests and the requests for mini grants or the sites, or like you're explaining the program stuff, that committee needs to understand that.
And we've got some standing mini grants that are used every year, but we don't really have many requests for new mini grants. And so we'll be looking at that when we have the final report about mini grants. The mini grants, that'll end June 30th, and so in August we'll have our final how many mini grants were actually allocated this year, to see if the mini grant funds, if that 10% is right, or if we should allocate it somewhere else within this 2%. the reason that we've got mini grants in there historically, before MDE said that 50% had to go to each site, 25% district-wide had to go to mini grants, and 25% had to go to district-wide use. And we ended up just having amassed this huge amount in the mini grants because no one was accessing them. And that's why when the committee, as Michaeline alluded to, a lot of work on it, we looked at about how much was being used in mini grants, and that's how it got reduced down to the 10.
Any other questions on that? Gene, you?
We still need to get our parent on there.
That's another, that's the next discussion
right.
item.
Okay.
I'm a parent.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, you can, I think.
Well, yeah, and I do have Mimi down
Yeah.
as a parent. I've actually got Mimi down because of the Donut Lab as a community entrepreneur as well. So she's there for 3 different reasons.
Okay.
Is that kosher? I don't
So-
know, but
Any other
we at
questions?
least checked all the boxes.
Okay. Community Advisory Group.
As Jean said, we're still looking for there's a lot of committees where we're looking for the community members, and as Mimi said, it's not really fair to the board to have them try to be the community member, because the community members are supposed to be people that really aren't on the inside and not knowing what's going on in the day-to-day. My hope is that the board is well informed of what's going on in the district, and so they really can't serve in that capacity of just someone out on the street. And so I was looking at what some other schools are doing, what else is being done. North Carolina and California have statewide stakeholder advisory groups. Since we revert everything down to acronyms, I don't like the acronym, so I don't want to sag here, but I do think maybe having that advisory group, the stakeholder advisory group, having some community members, having some parents, community members that don't have other ties, that aren't working here in some capacity, parents who aren't working here in some capacity, having a student on there, because it's good to get their voice too. But if we could get that advisory group together, it wouldn't be doing what you guys are doing. But as far as talking about the district advisory group and the plans with curriculum, right now the English department is revamping the curriculum to make sure that they've got the career and college ready components in it, to make sure that they have really addressed everything for that 7th and 8th grade reading component, to make sure it's aligning with what's going on in ADSYS, to make sure no kids fall through the cracks. They're redoing all of it now. Before that would have happened, it would have been nice to bring that to this committee and saying, okay, what do you think about the English curriculum that your kids have brought home? What do you think about for the community members, maybe business owners? What do you think about the English skills of the kids coming in, filling out job applications? Getting that kind of input that can go back to the committee. Because I know when we have had an adult parent / community member on the committee before, there were a lot of things like the nuts and bolts within those meetings where you just said, I really can't offer anything here. And so maybe giving them those parts where they could offer some of that input and that kind of person on the street idea. And then we could have a part for the district advisory committee, we could have a part for the district technology committee, because we haven't gotten anybody from the community there. For World's Best Workforce, we could get their community input there. For health and safety, we could get the input there. For wellness and the food service part, we can get their input there. For Title I, we could get the input. And it sounds like it'd be a beastly long agenda. It really wouldn't be, because but it would be meaningful.
So you're
And it
talking
would be
about creating
worthwhile
a-
for each of these groups, and I would think that they would meet 2 to 3 times a year to really kind of be a man on the street sounding board. It's just an idea I had because I know we're having a bugger of a time trying to fill the stakeholders, and I'm looking at the World's Best Workforce response from MDE last year, just saying, we need to make sure that we've got all these stakeholder groups. And I was just, we can't get anyone to serve on this committee. So I am honestly and unapologetically grasping at straws here. And I know that.
Part of this, I mean, Michaeline, that group that you're part of as far as having the businesses working with the school, would that be a way of reaching some of those people to try to bring them into this type of?
Well,
or I mean, even if we don't create they could still.
yeah,
be
I
part
mean,
of.
I think there are, I don't know, our outreach to identify or tap people to be the person from the street to come in. We've tried to go to meetings and introduce it and wait for people to come up, but I think we have to make a direct invitation with people that we've interacted with who have expressed interest in the
Oh, and
school.
that's kind of why I was thinking that this group of people you could, you're interacting with to some degree, but.
I'm trying to understand what you're saying about this. It just seems like another, I'm not understanding it fully yet, because we still have statute language that requires community members be part of World's Best Workforce and District Advisory Committee. I mean, the statute requires a community member.
The statute requires, and so then this would be the group that would be listed as being on all of those committees.
So
this is also the way that Zumbrota does do it this way, so I was looking at who else does it like this. They've got an advisory group and they put them down on the World's Best Workforce because they do bring ideas from, this is what's going on in World's Best Workforce, this is what that group of people within the school have created, and then they've got this group as kind of the commenting group on it. So he put them down as their stakeholder group.
Okay, so we have trouble getting a single representative on any of the existing committees, but now we're gonna get participation in a newly formed group? I mean, I still think we have the same problem of finding people to participate.
I think if you were to, and I'm gonna put Josh in the line here too, me and Josh, okay? If you were to say that we're gonna have, these are the 3 meetings, this is, if they're gonna last for an hour, and this is what we're gonna do, I bet Josh and I could get some parents to come to those meetings, but they need to know when they're gonna be, they need to know the duration, and they need to know well in advance, and my guess is they would sign up, because we haven't tried to get people. I haven't. I don't think any of us board members have. So I don't know how many people have been called, or if we just put an ad in, but I mean,
For
a
World's
person.
Best Workforce, we took a dog and pony show around the town.
But then do we wait for them to come back?
Yes,
yes.
You have to do,
But I
I
think
mean,
it-
it's sales. I mean, you have to go and do a personal, I mean, I know of 10 parents that would probably be a good fit, and they need to know, is it gonna be
But I
in the
think
evening?
that-
Is it gonna be in the day? I work during the day, so no, I can't do it,
Right, and so it would have to be an evening meeting, and most of the other committees, because they're staffed with teachers, are right at 3:30, and that doesn't work for most of our parents. So this would be a way to also do that advisory group at 7 at night, when parents would be more able to come, or maybe 8 o'clock, because that way those with young kids could put them to bed and then get there.
But if it's Fridays at 3:30 and we knew that, and it was only 3 Fridays, even, I mean, we might find somebody who worked one day through Thursday, or, I mean, but we need to know when it is, and then we can ask some people.
So what would be the makeup of this? Like, who from the district, who from administration, who from the board, and how many community members, or what are you thinking here? What are all our stakeholder groups that need to be represented? A student?
The stakeholder groups would be community business people, and then parents. I was thinking parents from I would like, it doesn't have to be a large committee, but at least one parent from a high school, at least one parent from the elementary school. As far as board representation, I'm not sure that we need or should have a board member on there, because I don't want the parents and community members stifled in looking at somebody else for, okay, what do you think? I really want this to be what they know, and not feeling like they don't know what's going on, or that they can't say anything. And so then I was just thinking that it would, I would be in the room with them, and we would all take notes on what they're saying, and there would be the board could have definite input on the agenda. Each of the committees would have input on what goes on the agenda, and then as we're going through that, having a note taker in there, and then at the end say, okay, this is what the input was here. Did anyone feel that their input wasn't heard? What else do I need to write down? Because then the input would come back.
I think it might be a good idea, but I think that it needs to be pushed off a bit, because I think we have some things we need to do first, and that we have committees that aren't meeting as regularly as they should be. And if I look at marketing committee, like the last marketing meeting we had, we gave a lot of input, and I didn't see the output come back. So I didn't see the Facebook page, I didn't see the website, you know, and so we've been saying certain things, and I think we should finish our strategic plan too. So, I mean, we've got as a board certain things that I think we need to get. I think we're getting a lot of input, and we're not seeing the output from the ideas, even just from the board and the committees that we have. So if we get all this parental input, it's just gonna get lost with all the other stuff that's flying around.
I can definitely see the benefit of this, and it'll be an asset to us, and there again we get the vote and a say, but their opinion is huge. So I don't see any harm in creating this, and like Mimi said, we could have an asserted effort to recruit. Because we run in, we go about our days, plenty of parents with opinions. And so we can say, hey, guess what? We got a group for you.
Well, yeah, and between Josh and I, we have the elementary, we have preschool through high school covered, you know, and we know who those parents are. So if you're looking for parents, you know, I mean, we've
Well, I think, like you said earlier, maybe what you'd have to do is kind of have a guideline. Okay, we're expecting you to meet 3 times a year, 1 hour for this time period. We're flexible on the day, per se, and the time at this moment until we, you know, and this is what we're looking for. So
we've looked for public and opinion, or
we've asked the community members to try to be part of it and come in and do stuff like Lena said, but I think some people feel it's too much work.
Well, I mean, I don't know why they don't. I think I agree with Corinne. She said that when we've had parents at the table, they feel overwhelmed because they don't know exactly what's being talked about. But I don't think that's the group. I think that we need to make a better effort to let them know, I mean, to summarize what's going on instead of having them plop in the middle of something. So, I mean, even this group is gonna need to be informed about what is the World's Best Workforce all about, and here's what we're seeking input on. And in those committee meetings, we just jumped into our agenda and never explained very well, I don't think, to the participants what was happening. I know that's why one person who participated once said, it was just overwhelming, and I didn't understand, you know, I just felt like they couldn't contribute, and so they never came again. But I think we could do a better job of letting them know, like you said, summarizing those things. So it has a chance to work. I mean, I agree with you. But they have to get some context. They have to get some history of each of the things we're seeking input for, right?
And not too much.
But some parents and students are
You wanna, you know, kind of focus on what you want them to.
You don't want a mob?
I'm not saying a mob, what I'm saying
No.
is you don't want them to be overwhelmed on, if you sat down and discussed world-class workforce with them,
Oh,
they may
yeah.
just, all of a sudden their eyes roll back in their head and they're lost, and, you know. You want to simplify it, to bring it to, okay, this is what we're looking for. I don't mean in a bad way, but just.
I don't know, I think it's probably fine if a board member doesn't participate, but I'm a little bit taken aback that the public might be put off by a board member being there, because honestly, we don't work in the buildings either, and we have questions more like community members than, more often more like community members. So I don't wanna create a wall where we have this problem of trust because the community, you know, the big bad board will, you know, we'll give you all this input and then the board's gonna do whatever they want. Okay.
I wasn't
Well, I
saying
was-
big
I
bad board,
felt-
but I'm
It felt that way a little bit, so
and I'm basically, I would be there to write down their input. And if they had a question on what does this mean, I could explain that question, but I really want this to be something where they feel that no one else is monopolizing, no one from the school is monopolizing the conversation. They have the ability to really give their ideas, to give their input on what they feel is important for kids to know and be able to do and have those experiences and which opportunities. That's what I'm trying to get, because that's really the feedback that we need.
So you have other schools that are doing this right now, so you could probably get like a rough draft on how they set it
Zumbrota,
up.
yeah, I could.
And how when they approached the parents, what their expectations were from them. I think that would be good for us to look at. And, you know, obviously, if, you know, Josh, maybe you're gonna recruit somebody, you know, that type of information, and kind of go from there. I mean, it's just stepping stones, but.
Who would come up with the agenda for the meeting, and who would be the moderator or moderators of that thing?
I think the board would come up with it depends on what we're looking for input at that time, what we're looking for input. And then we'd come up, as a board, we'd come up with an agenda, we would be asking them questions. And you would be the moderator, right? You'd be there. But like Michaeline said, maybe a board member wouldn't be bad to have there. And you can see how they do it. You know, I don't think any one of us is intimidating. Maybe Gary.
But that being said, this will open up, many parents and students find the traditional meeting intimidating and are leery in expressing openly some opinions or wants or needs, where this group would allow a less high profile or broadcasted. So that's another benefit of this.
But didn't we talk about getting together with the student council too?
Yeah.
And that never happened either.
We've been asking to get a member of that.
No,
group.
not a member, but, at the
Just have
MSBA, yeah, they do, like, at one of the schools, and I don't know who sat in on that, but they do they order like Subway or something, order sub sandwiches, and it's like, I can't remember exactly how it works, but it's more of, they might have a list of questions. It's more of a workshop with their student council. So the student council can really say what they feel. It's less intimidating, but it's not just one kid. It was the whole student council and the whole board getting together.
Like on a Saturday afternoon at a
Yeah,
workshop?
or some day after school or something, and they had some food. Yeah, it was like a workshop with them, and I think there's a lot of schools that do that.
We should re-invite that this year. Yeah, we all walked away saying that would be.
Yeah, that's kind of my frustration too, is because I feel like we talk about this stuff, but none of it ever happens. And I want to see some of it happen. I want to see the strategic plan get done. I want to see the Facebook page get done. I want to see the website get updated. Let's do the meeting with the student council. And we can do the thing with the parents. That's fine, but I just don't know if it should be pushed to be the highest priority above all these other things we're waiting to do. And the other thing I just want to caution is when we're doing it, you know, we just need to make sure that that it's mentioned, you know, we're not going to do everything you guys suggest. You know, I mean, we can't, right?
Right.
Just because because I mean, I could see the whole group having consensus that we need to do X, Y, Z. It's for sure going to happen, and it comes to the board, and we decide not to do it, and now we have this parent group upset. So.
But I think you're right, and that may be why we should have somebody there from the board to yeah, we will look at those things,
We're
but
not dominated, we're
No.
there to listen.
Right, I
Just
mean-
like you would be there to listen. It's a listening session, but it's a more structured one.
I know that at MSBA, that one school board member said that that meeting with the kids was their most valuable input they got all year. They just, and the kids enjoyed it, and the school board, they heard what they needed to hear, you know, from those kids in that one meeting, and everybody looked forward to it, so.
let's set something up. Right, Rick?
To get the kids, I mean, I think that's probably, if I can talk, that's probably a better way to do it. I mean, every year we have got kids say, let's go, pretty soon we're too busy, they don't wanna show up. They don't, when they've been here, I don't know if they felt as valued and heard, and they're just sitting there, cause they can't make the policies. Sitting down with them maybe, you know, for some time might have more value, but they have been asked and they have been told every single year, but they just they don't want to show up because, just like you're saying, the parents, you know, it's hard to get them. These kids are busy. They're not, you know, willing and wanting and jumping at the door to come sit down because they have been asked, but you know, some of these kids are so busy.
Some school boards do have a student council representative on the boards.
That's what Todd was talking about, is
But he was talking general.
And they'll do one or two, yeah. They do one or two meetings in person, they go, yeah, I don't know if I want to be here anymore.
Well, it'll probably be more beneficial to do it at the beginning of the year, and then maybe like 3 times a year. You know, at the beginning of the year, have a little get together. I don't know if that may be too many, middle of the year, maybe at the end of the year, or beginning of the year.
Even
and
one,
end,
start
you know,
with something.
But there is value to having all of the student council, instead of just one kid. to
No,
on
no,
the
I,
board, so.
And if you want to do something with all the student council, we probably would have to plan like a workshop on a Saturday to make sure that on a Saturday when nothing else is planned school-wise, because our student council kids are usually busy before school, they're lifting, and after school, they're in sports, they're in extracurriculars. So
Well,
to
let's-
get them.
When does the student council meet? I mean, when do they meet in the school day? When do they meet as a full
They
council?
meet before school. Chair Stillin, you could ask, the student
Yeah.
council advisor is here.
when do they meet?
Usually, depending on the year, but Thursdays at 7:30, and if it's close to homecoming, it's weekly, and otherwise it tries to be once every 2 to 3 weeks.
I mean, would it, I don't know, if we got not the full board, but a couple representatives that
I can be
could
there.
be there when they are meeting.
Ron could
I
be
mean,
there,
we
well.
could come to them and just set up, not a big workshop, but a mini thing to get it started.
Free breakfast for them.
Yeah, something,
But
I mean, that way we're not
you're retired,
asking
right?
them to carve out more of a busy day.
When do they elect officers?
They're already chosen
For next year?
Mhm.
So maybe we should just commit to doing it in September or something.
So Tom, you'll get with the
Yep.
advisor, plan it, and then
I'll
also
have people
tell,
here with 3 people, and we'll-
and so that, because if more than, if 3,
board members.
or if 4 of you show up, it's gotta get posted as a meeting, so that's.
Yeah,
We understand, we
Yeah,
understand.
that's fine.
But it doesn't need to be publicized, it can be
Right.
a posted workshop, right? And if somebody wants to come, they can, right?
So I'll get with her, we'll come up with a time beginning of the year. And then see how many of us can meet at the 7:30-ish time. Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. MSBA annual renewal.
We just got this, MSBA renewal notice. Now, it does say July 1st, but usually, we paid this one a little later, but.
It's due in November.
Yeah, it's due in November. But it's nice to have it. It will be on approval on the July 19th board meeting. But I just wanted to point out that we will be paying it, but it's not really due until.
Anybody have any questions on it? Okay, let's moving right along. Old business, items for discussion and approval. Bus purchase, we talked about this at the last meeting. Do we have a motion to approve it?
So I'll move that we go ahead with the purchase of this bus.
Second.
Any discussion?
Forgive me if this was discussed and I don't remember it, but I was reading in the MSBA thing about grants for LP, and probably did we discuss that, or whether that was an option for this bus replacement, to pursue grants for an LP or natural gas bus?
Right now, it wouldn't be cost effective to go with one LP or one natural gas bus. We have looked at those grants, and it's to retire. There's a lot of different stipulations as far as which of your buses you actually can. It's a grant to replace an existing bus.
Isn't that what this is? Is this an additional bus?
This is a replacement, but as far as we're replacing the bus that costs the most to repair, not necessarily replacing the bus that had the worst air quality output.
Okay, well, I'm glad to know you're looking at those, because there was quite a bit of money.
Oh, yeah,
there's lots of money available.
There's a slug of money, but there's also a slug of hoops to jump through to get.
Well, I think good. It's a good point, Michaeline. I think we maybe should have Randy start looking into it.
Well, he has.
Oh, no, he already
looking for the not down the road.
But just when we come up for a bus, just say, we looked at this, and, because we read that, and so it's just nice to know that you've looked at it, and this is the reason why you're not going in that direction. So thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Rushford Peterson Co-op Agreement. Do we have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I still have a problem with the verbiage there's a section there, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it. Could you scroll down? There's a section there on the referees. Let's see. Yeah, keep going.
C7.
C7. Is that what it is?
It's on page 5.
Oh. No, not that one. No. There's something in there that says something about no change will be made unless the governing board of the sponsoring district meets with the governing board of the joining district. And I'm like, do we really want to put that in there? Do we want to require that the school boards meet in the event that there's...
If you could scroll up. Okay, no, B, 4B, that's what you're talking about.
Yes, I just think there's a way, to me that looks like boards have to get involved when we hire refs.
No, what this is saying is the refs are counted in the allocations of costs. What this is covering us on is if it's some additional things that aren't part of the typical costs, and Rushford then starts to want to hire these additional things that aren't part of those typical costs. They can't do, if we took out our rights to say, hold on a second, you can't charge us for this. That would be giving that right away. And in reading that, I felt that there's a reason that this one is in there. And it says the governing board, and it's approval from you guys. It's not necessarily that the boards don't have to get together to talk. Right now,
it says after consultation.
Consultation. And so right now, the two boards are working together on this cooperative agreement, but you've never had to actually convene a joint meeting. That is working together.
Okay, it's just confusing language to me. So you're gonna be watching out that we don't get charged for things prorate.
Right.
Without,
If there's a red flag, we'll be notified, and then,
We'll be
and then
notified.
there'll be a discussion, and we'd have to come up and say, okay, why is there an
we'd have
extra?
to approve it.
And I didn't wanna give away our right to contest.
We just wanna be part of it.
This has always been in there.
Well, this is a new.
This is new one, but this
language.
is boilerplate language from MSHSL. What we have from Caledonia is not MSHSL template language at all. This is.
This is because we've been working good together, friendly, jointly.
Mhm.
We just wanna have something written, because it's been.
District 239 met last night, did they approve it?
They met on Monday and approved it, yes.
So, we have a motion, we have a second, further discussion.
I mean, you guys are good, otherwise I could add something, Mr. Chair, if you wanted to, on that B part.
Sure.
Just, you know, referees association, that's a big one, and I'll tell you where that came from. It came from soccer. Schools are really struggling, and when they're entering this co-op, the one school would say, yeah, we'll pay you, you know, $10,000 to the, you know, Rochester Soccer Association, and that's where they'd get it, and all of a sudden, boom, you'd be coming up, oh, we got all this extra money. So there's things like that, and that's like Corinne said, it's a boilerplate state high school league. That was a big one, and that's why that specific one was put in there, because of the referees associations. We kind of work with them, but we don't charge them, or they don't charge us any more money for it. It really came from soccer is where it came from, because they have this strong group, and these schools would get socked with big time bucks paying for a soccer association to get all of your officials.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was a routine thing that we
Yeah,
had to do, and I just thought it meant that we would need to be communicating with Rushford frequently over stuff that we shouldn't have to.
No, I think it's.
Corinne was right, boilerplate, but that's where it came
Yeah.
from, and that's why it was talking officials association specifically.
Okay. Any further discussion on it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. FY19 proposed budget. Do we have a motion to approve the proposed budget?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
I was gonna suggest we look at it because it's changed since last time. Like we didn't review it at the first part, so.
What was the changes on there, Gwen? Anything specific?
We had we have a finance committee meeting last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we made some changes in finance committee. If you look at the assumptions in here, they've got some dollar amounts in there now. If you scroll down, so you can see the dollar effect of the changes. And then the overall number is different as well from when you saw it last time. The one from the last meeting didn't have because we voted on it at the same time, didn't have the elementary ITA reduction.
Right.
So anyway, the assumptions have changed slightly, in that they've got some more details. I think there was some tweaking on some of them, and then the number has changed. And I don't remember what it was maybe Gwen can tell us what it was last time.
It was negative 31 last time, and so now it comes out to.
If you scroll down just a little bit to the next page, I think it's,
Yeah, it comes out, we're to the good by 1,000, so.
But in finance committee, I was under the impression we were gonna come out to the good of about 10,000, but now it's 1,000.
The reason for that is because that pair for the ITA was already taken out of the original budget. When I removed ITA, it was a difference of 47,000, but I had already removed 4 pairs from the budget previously.
Oh.
And so
So then
one
it
of those
did.
would have been for the ITA.
Okay, so that we're, okay.
Okay. Further discussion on the proposed budget? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. MREA annual renewal. We have a motion to approve that. We talked about it last time.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion for the resolution establishing day for filing candidacy.
Motion.
Second.
And second, discussion. Who's got the name on the list? Perfect. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. So we have a motion for the policy 807.
Motion.
Second.
Second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Don't have any new business to discuss, announcements, important events, MSBA summer semester. Seminar, I mean?
Okay.
School already.
We have one person that said they were interested, no one else has gotten, but we need to know. I will be driving up that morning, but I will be staying overnight because the MASA conference is the following 2 days. So,
What day is that again?
It's
Yeah.
Monday, August 6th.
Yes.
August 6th, okay. Anything else? Meetings and committee updates. We had a finance committee meeting, you wanna, we kind of talk a little bit about it?
I think that's pretty much what we spent most of the time going over. There was a
Assumption.
couple other items, but I don't remember. We went over the budget assumptions.
We went over long-term facility maintenance
Yep.
revenue and, well, we didn't know the revenue. At that time, the MDE hadn't come out with the revenue.
2 days before.
Yeah.
There was a couple other items, but I don't remember them.
No, it was for me, I'm new on that committee, it was a good education for me. I think the conversation was good. The assumptions page that we got on this proposed budget, we had, some numbers that give a general idea. We're saving money here, but this is costing us. They're saving money here, and it's not firm numbers, but hopefully you, the rest of the board, knows why that's in there, and if you like that, I guess we'd like to know it, because I like it, but maybe that was because I was a newbie on the committee. It's informative.
I think it's informative. I mean, you're right. If you're not on the committee, you don't see those numbers as you're talking about them.
Yeah.
The questions may come up during this meeting,
And then
and
they're
it's nice
answered.
to have it right there and it's answered. So I think it's beneficial.
The other thing we talked about with it too is that it'll be flagged on there. I don't know how often we revisit that, but when we vote something like the bus purchase we just did tonight, so it'll be marked as board approved. So
Yeah.
we'll be able to see which items we still have to approve at a glance versus which ones have already been approved.
So now that one's been board approved, we can go back in and put BA after it. BA will stand for one more acronym, board approved.
Okay. Perfect. Anything else on that? Okay, Gary, facility committee. You finished that before this? Got a list of about 27 items. Go ahead.
Almost.
We're here for another hour.
Right. We already talked a little bit about the long-term facility maintenance 10-year plan. That was primarily centered around asbestos abatement for the science labs.
And it's all the flooring that still has the 9-inch tiles, so there's several rooms.
Oh, so it's science labs and a lot of classrooms.
Yep.
Okay. We also talked about results from the water testing. A lot of the results are not in, but some of the results that did come in regarding lead found slightly elevated levels in a couple sinks and pretty high levels in an outside faucet. So we're looking at getting the pipes leading to those two sinks and that outside faucet replaced with PEX to take care of that problem. Another thing we talked about was fencing for the baseball and elementary dugouts, primarily a safety thing. Anything we need to discuss on that?
It's like $3,500.
Right.
Is what the cost on it was, so.
Right. And the roofs have already been replaced on those dugouts, so they should be in good shape once we get the fencing in there. Preschool playground placement. The original plan was to put it right behind the building where there's currently a parking lot, but there's an electrical wire going through that area, so it will have to be moved.
More to come.
And yeah, we
We're basically,
need to,
yeah.
we need to know where, thinking about future plans for that site. Where can we put it? Because we knew that if we put it right behind the building, it wouldn't be in the way of any future plans. Well, now, we're gonna have to move it off to the north, or the south side, because the north side is all power and all kinds of lines underneath, it's all flagged. So it's going to have to go off to the south, but where on the south, what?
So the facility committee is gonna meet with Mr. Bartz, and we're gonna go over there and kind of figure out what space we need, you know, for this project, and get some ideas on where we could put it, and we'll come back to the board and say, okay, these are potential locations, because like we talked about fencing around it, we don't wanna, you know, just plop it right in the middle of the property, because then you're limiting what you can do with the rest of it. So we're gonna go over there. It's hard to tell right now, sitting here, where we're gonna go with it. I'd like to see, we need it to be 60 by 80, or what do we need?
We know it's 48 by 38. We
Yeah, but
already
you know,
know
I mean,
that.
we have to have that when Gary and I and the facility committee with Mr. Sparks goes over and looks at it. We'll kind of have some general ideas on what space it will take up, and then come back to the board. That's what our discussion was, correct?
When was that slated to go in?
As soon as we order it, it will be here in 4 weeks, but then we'll have to store the parts until they can come in and they can install it within like 2 weeks, but we have to.
So we'll meet again before
Correct.
then. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
we'll
good.
meet again.
Right, we need to have the site prepped.
Yeah, there's some things that need to happen prior to that, but the whole objective was to get it ordered.
Yep.
And then, you know, they will come in and they're hoping to have it done before the school year is the plan.
Has it been ordered?
Yeah,
No.
it's gonna be here.
Yeah, because
Shortly.
we also looked at colors.
Yeah.
And so it's.
So it has been or hasn't been?
It has not.
Oh, okay.
We're on the
I thought
list.
You just said
We're
yes.
on, no, it's
Okay.
on, we're on the list. I mean, I know Bart's is out there calling them right now, ordering it.
Well, no,
So-
we have to do the color selection, so we're getting input. If you wanna look at the book. and-
That's fine, I trust you.
Good.
Okay.
We already picked it, so. You weren't involved, Grant.
Okay.
You wanted
You
to
know, I
know.
think on that project, I think it's probably good to just find the most convenient spot for the school. Because when you talk about future plans, how far off are future plans? I mean, let's use it in the best way we can, and if we have to move it later, we move it. But that could be 10 years down the line, it'll be time for a new set of playground equipment by then.
I
So-
hope it lasts longer than 10 years.
Well, nothing seems to these days.
Well,
but anyway, that's just my thought on the matter.
Well, it's good input.
I don't think we should think about
too far down.
something that's gonna happen next year,
I
because it's not.
I looked over there after they got to know that the lines are there, and to me it looked, well, just move it south from where we were gonna put it, just straight south, till we get over the lines.
Yeah, I don't know, like I said, I
Well, I
can't,
think
I
it's
can't
good
say
if you
until we
guys
go
will
over and
look
look
at
at
it.
it.
I think it's-
We need to know where the lines start and
Yeah,
end
have a
and get a
conversation.
clearer, you know, so. Well, there's more to come on it.
The only thing I'll say is that, you know, if you're gonna fence it, like, if you put it back and not against the sidewalk, what's gonna be in that space? Is it gonna be green space? And if you're gonna do that, then it's just gonna be empty space, maybe the fence should go up there as well. Cause I think the fence is to,
Keep the kids in.
yeah, and the people, and the.
Shot collars are.
Yeah, and I mean, it just makes sense to me to have the fence go up by the sidewalk, you know?
Which is why
Because
it
if-
made so much sense to put it right behind the building.
But if you, well, I'm talking the south, the
Well, I know,
west
I
side
know what you're
going
talking
down.
about, if we put, yeah, along
I
the
mean,
road.
if you're gonna set it back, don't put the fence in the middle, you know,
No,
make it
no,
be a
no,
bigger
no.
fenced in area, right?
Right. For more play area.
Yeah, cause if they gotta stay inside the fence, you know, they might appreciate just having plain green space as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure they play games.
Grass is
and stuff.
good.
Yeah, grass is good.
Okay, we also talked about steps at the preschool and the elementary gym entrance, and we got a couple bids. Bid from Chris Nelson and, was it Bruno?
Travis.
Travis Bruno Construction. We do need a little more detail on what their bids included and hopefully some drawings to illustrate what their plans are. On the folding doors in the gym, the high school gym, we were considering replacing those, but it's been a challenge finding anybody that would actually come in and do it. So plan B is to have the existing doors covered with a wrap that, I don't know if we have.
Todd, you got that picture by chance, or does Andy, you have it?
Bring it up?
Yeah.
That would really add to the existing doors, and as long as they're operational, there's nothing seriously wrong with them, just putting a nice wrap on them might be a good alternative.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
If it's gonna open up.
There.
Yeah, nice.
That would really add to the gym.
And I think the cost is a lot less, it's like $4,500.
Yeah.
I think there's some $395, I think, for travel costs, or $392 or something like that.
Doors operating smoothly?
According to their people that work.
So it's
on it.
just a matter of upgrading.
Reskinning them.
And we're having a tougher time finding parts for the doors, but I still think you can find them. A good mechanic's gonna be able to find stuff, so. Yeah.
So now the only thing we need to do is find a vector of our hurricane sign.
Haven't we had that
Haven't we had that done like 10 times?
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get they created a vector when the Owen Onsgard court went in. And so I'm going to see from Denise if I can get the vector from them.
Did we ask Craig Stanislavski if he can do this?
What he does are window clings. This is not a window cling. This
Are you
is
sure? Because I think he did the wrap for the Powell Center
But
car.
this is really durable stuff, so that if it gets hit with a baseball.
You did a
or
wrap on a
basketball.
car. It's pretty durable. I mean, I think
Worth
it might be
asking.
smart
No.
to ask. It's a local business and we've done business with them, and if he can do something similar, I say, yay, let's give our business to somebody in town. It's my 2 cents. I know he does a lot of stuff, so.
It's worth the ask.
Okay.
Okay, we
So
also.
hold on, is that a yes I need to ask Craig for the facilities guys?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
We also talked about the galvanized piping replacement at the high school and the possibility of, instead of replacing piping with copper, go with PEX. And so that's something we will be looking into. Let's see, plumbing and fixture replacement in the high school lab. That will be put off until after the countertop replacements, so that we don't end up having to tear out new fixtures right after we put them in. Health and safety file review report. Wasn't anything serious on that, was there?
No.
Okay.
And
And
we
then,
had a copy if anyone wants to look at it.
yeah,
And it's in the facility file too.
exciting meeting. Update on the garage. Plan B on the garage is not to build a new garage, but to extend the existing garage, right?
But Randy Muller had the idea to take the existing garage that's out on the parking lot at the high school. A building permit would be much easier. We don't have to worry about Army Corps of Engineers or the DNR. And then I had Kyle look at it a little bit. And so Kyle's drawing something up and possibly his class could do that. We do have some residual or remaining supplies for that garage. Years ago, they bought new siding that's still sitting in there to replace the siding that's broken, but they never put it on. So we do have some supplies if we are going to redo that existing garage.
Which way
And-
would that run?
What?
How would that run out there?
It would just continue.
Way down the
No
drainage.
one, no one parks right there right now anyway, so it'd just continue out farther and then
North?
east.
Oh, east towards the
East,
school.
right.
Gotcha.
Can I ask what prompted this update? What
It was just more of a, it's kind of, both of them are still in the hopper.
Okay.
It's just, this came up as a discussion, Randy thought, hey, what if we just did this? So,
Can you get enough space there?
well, that's why it's just a discussion item, and it's in, you know, I think we're working both ends. It's just,
And then.
can we do it there? Is it even feasible? Because there was some questions that came up at the meeting. You know, there's some water issues back there. There may not be enough space. I mean, again, it's just, we're letting you know as other options. You know, as it would be more cost effective than what we're looking at.
And with building code, right now that the Lester Prairie person hasn't gotten back to me as far as with building code for Houston, we can't put the steel siding vertically the way they typically do. They would have to change their design to put the steel siding horizontally so it would fit the building code. And he hasn't gotten back to me about that yet.
So we haven't got any prices back on the building that we want to build.
The building that we
I
could
just thought
build
it was a
according.
done deal, or I thought you probably
there was some-
thought about
some
all that stuff.
snags in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like every time we turn around.
I mean, nobody in
There will be
town
extra
has
storage
vertical
one day.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. It won't be approved by planning commission. I know that.
I got a bunch of siding with you. Okay.
That's some old barn.
You do? From my place? Yeah. I still got another barn to take down. Okay, anything else there, Gary?
No.
Does anybody have any questions to Gary?
Nice
Thanks.
recap.
Good job, Gary, thank you. Any feedback, anything at this time, Fran?
Nope, it's just,
Yeah.
it was a meeting that,
Do we have a-
lots on the agenda, and it was a long one.
I just want to say, if you haven't been logging in to Mr. Momsen, he's been
Oh.
online, and he gave a shout out to Houston and the Midwest the other night, exploring off the coast of Oregon.
Man, I was gonna go on, I had that card sitting there by my
Yeah,
stuff to
it's-
look at.
Very cool guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it looks like it's the moon, it's really boring and slow, but that's research, you know?
We're
I
lucky
mean,
to
it's,
have him.
well, I mean,
Oh, no.
it's good for kids to realize it's, you know, research isn't always the most exciting thing in the world.
He had a good presentation. Though. He made it exciting. He was,
Oh, here, yeah, I'm sure his class will be looking forward to the information he brings back.
Yeah, everybody should get a look at it. I wouldn't have even thought of it except Michael. He gave me a holler.
And there are schools still in session, there are classrooms sending the crew their questions, we're not in session, but I mean, there are classrooms elsewhere that are seeking, so it's good.
And his article was in one of the papers here, just
Yeah, you guys
And that
put
was-
that in, that was nice.
yeah.
good to advertise for us.
Cool. Anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming.
That sign in.